conflict in your relationship is the one most transformational thing for growth. Let's talk about this thing we call conflict that most of us try to avoid, especially in relationships. And many people even think it's an error, while it's really very important in relationships, and it will happen. So today, Daniel and I are back together. It's been like years, I think, since we last recorded together.
We should date more.
Well, we date a lot, but we don't date on camera.
Absolutely. And to set the stage a little bit, like we are both really passionate about the topic of conflict, but conflict, of course, is much wider than only the word conflict. It's agitation, irritation, arguing, whatever rocks your boat. And we are both in a relationship. We work. We are mostly with women. I mostly work with men one-on-one. And there are differences gender-wise, but also like what we found out, especially I think the last 2-ish years, is that conflict, argument potentially could be an amazing bridge to level up your relationship if you have the courage and the honesty to go deeper past the surface bickering that is going on.
Well, I think it has to do a lot with that we don't really learn about what conflict can really be for us. And we use the word conflict. Before our recording, we were talking about, call it arguments or conflict, or there are a lot of different layers of it and the different forms of how you bump into each other, where one has a different experience or way of seeing and feeling than the other. But what most of us don't learn growing up is how to deal with, I experience something differently than you in a healthy way. And so we learn to just comply with the people who bring us up, our parents, our teachers. We learn to say sorry to siblings when we don't really know why we should feel sorry or when we still don't feel hurt. And so we grow up as grown-ups, as humans, who have not really matured in understanding that when one human meets another, we will always come into conflict.
I think what you bring up is beautifully, we don't learn how to use conflict in a healthy way. We learn compliance when we're young.
Exactly.
When they're like, let's say when our parents are agitated with us, they most of the time say, stop, be and do normal.
Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. It's you're not okay. So in a way, we learn when there is conflict, something is not okay. But
or we have to change. And I think this is the biggest toxin in any human relationship, family, friends, and especially marriages or love relationships. We think that conflict is about winning.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
a competition who has the right argument on a cognitive level that the other has to comply with you.
Absolutely. And that's what I see with a lot of my clients, like they enter what I call the land of lost. And the land of lost for me personally, but also for them, is that when they entering that world of where something is off, it is an opportunity for growth, but they gonna go into the mode of blaming and shaming the other, and they are gonna use facts and arguments to win. And the thing is, when somebody in a relationship tries to win, everybody is losing.
Everybody is losing. And okay, so you mention like blame, shame, guilt. This is constantly happening.
Yeah.
Especially in conflict, often blame starts to come into the game.
Yeah.
And as soon as blame happens, we are projecting outwards something on another to comply with us. But it's a form of manipulation. People
Absolutely.
don't do that consciously. But as soon as I start to blame you, you will feel you need to defend yourself. And now we're in a battle instead of in trying to find the connection. The truth is, and what you were just saying and what happens in conflict, when you are in whatever kind of relationship, this can even be a work relationship, but let's keep the love relationship as the basics of this, because this is where the person you spend your life with, the person you decided to be most intimate with in your life by choice, right? Not by birth, but by choice. And so there's a lot to gain and to lose.
Yeah.
But when it becomes about winning, it's about one being right and one not being right. Well, actually, the question should be...
Sorry to interrupt you, but that's also like one, in a way, places him or herself above the other. It's almost like a hierarchy, like I'm better than you.
I want to be more right than you.
Exactly.
But what happens when one is better or wants to be right versus the other? We lose connection.
Yeah.
While in a relationship, we should always be looking for how can we restore connection. So when the argument comes in, right, when it gets heated, and why don't you understand? Or you should understand.
Yeah.
Wait, one moment. This is a thing where you turn it into a competition, because I can fully understand you, but still not have the same experience.
And mostly, let's say, the men that I work with, they say, yeah, but the arguments I have, they are so logical. Why can't she understand? And then I give the concept of the land of lust, because what you say is, if you're asking yourself those questions, you're asking yourself the wrong questions. And by asking yourself the wrong questions, what it always turns into is, in a way, a disconnect. And you already said it, a relationship, let's say the primary reason that a relationship in itself exists, the foundation of it is connection.
And connection is not, there can be like a cognitive connection.
Absolutely.
But the real interhuman connection is not cognitive. The choice to be in a connection with a person, especially when it's not work related, is always on an emotional, a vibrational level. It's beyond the mind. So when we come into a conflict, and just let's state this, it will happen. If you have a great relationship, if you find the love of your life, and you do not bump on conflict, it's probably not the right relationship. Because we are in relationships not to play a Disney movie, not to play a picture, but interhuman relationships are where we can learn and grow and be reflected into our own patterns and see the other reflected in us. And we can learn that you can love someone who is not exactly the same as you, and that you can grow from being different, because Absolutely. It enriches you. But if you keep saying, I need to be right, you have Absolutely. To understand me, we can understand each other, but still have a different experience and not see eye to eye on that experience.
Yeah, and to be honest, like a relationship, and I think that's there's a whole podcast possible around relationships. Like a relationship is not set in stone. It's almost like an organism. It's always constantly evolving. Yes. And that's why conflict is necessary, because the conflict is the gateway, the entrance to connect on the levels, the deeper levels of what we feel. And to be honest, if we would see a relationship where there is no conflict at all, I would be worried. I would be absolutely worried, because
people are bypassing.
People are bypassing, people are hiding their shit. They are not completely honest with each other. And because when we talk about conflict, it's not like throwing stuff at each other. It's about, in a way, if it's a healthy form, it's about reconnecting every time and finding each other again. And
we had to learn this too. We are both we are both people who we grew up both in our families as wanting to keep the peace, being the ones who kind of manage the homeostasis in the family, both in our own way.
Yeah, we call this emotional homeostasis, so that the balance in a way is always the same. And that's stupid, to be honest.
But there's, when you grow up or when the empaths,
Yeah.
very many empaths do this in their family because you just see a little more, you feel a little more conscious than the people around you. And unconsciously you start to play into that because it creates safety. So it's a talent, but it also creates people who are very afraid of conflict because conflict, as we learn growing up, might disconnect you from the people you love.
Yeah, and that people don't love you, that they will run away from you when you're in a conflict. So we avoid it at all cost.
Yeah, and so we both are people who don't naturally look for conflict, like conflict. We both have our very avoidant, I just want to be nice, why don't you love me
Exactly.
state. And that's still, I honor that part of me because I think that's a very sweet part. But when it's unconscious and compulsive, it's very toxic. And so within our relationship, we are together for 11 years and we got married last year, October. We had to learn to kind of speak up and out about things in a way that we wouldn't avoid the conflict, as well as trying to understand if I bring something up and you shut down, or it comes into this mental battle between who is more right than the other, we'd have to take a breath because we all both naturally really want connection more than anything.
Absolutely.
And we really don't want to hurt each other more than anything.
Yeah, and I always make the joke that I'm dating conflict, that I'm dating arguments, because it starts with building a new relationship, not with the other, but internally with conflict.
Yeah.
And in a way, in my world, it's called a reframe. So it's like a different perspective on what a conflict is. And in a way, that's what we're handing out together here to you. But if we would go back, let's say 5 years in time, and Ing would bring up something that would, let's say, result in a conflict, I probably would do 3 things. One, I would defend myself. I would be a big defender, coming up with arguments, trying to win the argument in a way to, defend my identity. If that wouldn't work, then I would literally choose for 2 other strategies. And all those 3 strategies that I'm sharing is every man that comes here is using and leveraging those same strategies if they didn't grow into the next evolution of themselves. The next 2 things are becoming quiet. I call this a little bit like the turtle, the implosion. Like if you see
not
a turtle,
communicating anymore. This is for a woman. It's very distressing.
Yeah,
just
I know.
That's the ultimate disconnect from connection. I'm not even saying anything to you. That's terrible.
Yeah, but it's also almost like a disconnect from not only you, but almost from yourself, because you feel so uncomfortable.
It's
and
a form of running away.
It's a form of running away. And that's the 3rd strategy.
Yeah.
And that's literally, let's say, going out of the room. Not a strategy that I use that much,
No.
but the other 2 I was really good at. And to be honest, sometimes I'm still am. And those 3 patterns, when it comes to men, those are the basic patterns we see with them. And for women, because I think it's important also to have a little bit of the symptoms when it comes.
So and I will connect it to me because I cannot speak for all women. When we say women and men, we are talking about the more masculine version, the more feminine version. And in some relationships, that's reversed, right? The woman has the more masculine strategy and the man has the more feminine strategy. It can go both ways. But as a woman, when we see some balance is off, usually balance is off and you feel the connection is slipping. And as a woman, that would be a reason for me to speak out and say, hey, something's up. I notice this. And often that is on a doing version. You do this, you say that.
Yeah, almost like a blame, right?
Yes, and it becomes blame. And then you feel when you bring it up, it has good intentions, but the partner might feel attacked and they go into defense.
Yeah.
And as a woman, you amplify. You become more emotional because you want to be heard. It's like, this is important. I wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't important. Now, in the beginning of our relationship, I was used to work with artists and big groups, and I was used to having to put a lot of emotional intensity in the things I
Literally
say.
like becoming 10 times as big.
And I would start a conflict with Daniel because I was used to not being heard so much on level 10. and you would say to me, Ing, if you're this intense, I cannot even hear the words you're saying. I wouldn't be screaming, but my intensity would be so much that he would just shut down. Now, the gift of you is that you would say to me, Ing, this is so intense, I don't know how to hold myself or communicate with you. So I could learn to tone it down. So that's one thing women do.
But also, like, I had to find the words for that, let's say, dynamic that was going on. Because in the beginning, I would just go into turtle mode and and maybe even want to leave the room. But at a certain point, I realized what was going on internally and shared that with you. And that was one of the first openers in one of those symptoms.
And for me, it was like, first you feel like guilty for, did I do something wrong? But I want to be heard and you're not hearing me, right? This is what it's all about, being heard and being like back in connection. And what I'm doing to get connection is making the connection worse. So another thing that happens from there, and I know this from a lot of women, because the guy starts to shut down or usually internally feel guilty, and then they just go in defense mode and blame back. We keep going on, like hitting the stones, rat-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, because your verbal capacity, and see this and see that, and we're going to connect the dots. Because last year, again, we had this. And what you hear is like, now I'm attacked with all these incidents. I don't understand why. Yeah. What we see is this network of the same problem in different situations.
Yeah, and to add to that, like the men that come here, they say, let's say they label it as nagging. So the wife is nagging all the time. But what's beneath that is like, it's again not good enough. Yeah. Like the two things that are going on between men and women are always an interesting dynamic in itself, because women most of the time feel that they always take up too much space, and men always feel like they're not good enough. So when you, as a woman, would go into the nagging mode, the turtle mode, or
the throwing stones.
Throwing stones is like the basic default for most men is that they don't feel good enough, and then the nagging just adds on top of the self-worth that is already low.
Yeah, and then because, on an emotional level, especially when you have a family with kids also, a woman usually has the emotional oversight of what is needed to have the balance. I say usually, right? I'm not trying not to make it black and white. Mm. And the man more has the structural look of it, and it feels very much responsibility for the worldly things. And so when we come with this emotional, there's a disbalance.
Intensity.
Yeah, but we come also with the emotional intensity, which is important, right? Women get a lot of blame and a lot of being dismissed for, you're just being emotional.
Yes.
Please, men and women out there, stop doing that. The emotional part is essential to regain connection. But for those of us who are more in the emotional part of it, we need to know when to exhale. This is what I learned, because you could voice that you needed less intensity to reconnect to me. And I felt that you really, really wanted to connect to me.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to win.
No.
And you didn't want to run away, but you didn't know how to hold yourself. So what I learned then is that at some point when I made my point, or when I voiced what I had to voice, I have to back off.
Yeah.
And what most people on my side of a conflict want to do is we want the instant transformation and understanding of the other. Yeah. Now, I've learned I have brothers and a father. I love the man around me and a husband. They need time to render. And it goes in a different pace. And sometimes it takes an hour. Sometimes it takes a day. Sometimes it takes 5 weeks. But you have to start to understand that the person you have the conflict with has a pace. And when you know the information has gotten through, at some point it's looping. You have to get out of the loop and give them their space.
Yeah, and also like what we, of course, as human beings, I didn't learn it, but you say give him some space. That is true, but I needed literally there was nobody helping me, teaching me how to become a man and how to deal in a healthy way with arguments. I needed to develop something to step out the situation, because you're absolutely right. 9 out of 10 times I need some space to process it, because we have the emotions, we have the feelings of not being good enough. That's a little bit of the default, all the thoughts. But I needed a series of a process, let's call it like a process, like of inquiry within myself around responsibilities. Where is it that I don't take responsibility? What's yours? What's mine? Because there are things that are just yours in an argument, and there are things that are mine. And where is it that I want to take responsibility for? But nobody ever taught us, let's say, a process of inquiry to step out of an argument, to
just go into
to go inwards. What do I feel? What are the stories behind the feeling? Is this true? Even like this week, I had many moments, not really only in arguments, but that I need time to process, like, oh, is the feeling first? Are the thoughts first? Is it true? Is it not true? It's almost like I see it as a spider web of processes. And one of the things, by the way, I've learned with you, but also with the men that I work with, is that if you stop going into arguments with me, I really need to worry, because then you're at the point that you feel that you've given up. So I need you to be in your power.
So when the person who takes the responsibility to bring up the hard subjects, which we call arguments or conflict, if the person in the relationship who has the courage to bring them up, because you know in every relationship, one is more avoidant, one is more like the courageous one to bring it up.
Yes.
And we call them nagging, but they really do a very important job.
Absolutely.
We have to find a good way to do it. But when the one who brings up the conflict and says, we need to address this, stops doing that, that's when your relationship really is dying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you've given up hope. You go like, okay, it's either we'll ride it out and I'll just live beside you without connection.
Yeah.
We'll just keep the form, but you're not getting my heart anymore because I don't trust you.
Yeah.
Or it's the beginning of some person emotionally planning to separate from you. So this is when you think, oh, now everything's going fine. We don't fight anymore. Listen, I have to say this. We are not saying look for fights.
No.
We are not saying look for arguments, but we need to, in a relationship, when you live together, there are enough things that we bypass for a while or we step over, and that need to be addressed for the relationship to grow.
In a way, and that's the principle we both lead with, and it's an ongoing process, so we are not perfect in it, but in a way we lead with truth. And the truth is like, when we like it sounds easy, like, oh yeah, let's be truthful with each other. But the real truth is when you find a friction within yourself, like you're evolving, I'm evolving, so our relationship is evolving. I desire, for example, this. Oh, if I would say that out loud, I feel friction internally. It feels really uncomfortable and vulnerable to share this with you. And
it has to do with vulnerability.
Yeah, it has. And I also call this exposing yourself. Like, are you, and I think you did that magnificently after for some of our harder times, that you were truly exposing yourself with your desires. But like, even the people that sit here in this room, they share things. And then I ask them, are you sharing these things that you're sharing with me here at home? And then the answer is no. And that's unbelievable.
That's when you coach people and they are very open and vulnerable to you. And you ask them, is this what you share with your partner? They go, no.
Yeah. And I know, like, based on what we've grown into together, is like, I know that those sides that are being shared here are the sides that you, as a partner, as a woman in the relationship, is craving for. And not only you, but also all the other groups. Like, they say, I'm craving for this, and they share it here, but not at home. The place where it's also about safety, right? Because exposure is also connected to how safe do you feel within yourself.
Yeah, and in your relationship. I think one thing I want to add to what you just shared, when it comes to vulnerability only exists in honesty.
Yes.
But what a lot of people don't understand the difference between is an opinion and honesty.
Yes.
So an opinion is more of the mind, where you have a judgment or a conclusion about something. And most people, when they say they're being honest about an opinion. Like,
exactly.
This is what I think of you.
You're absolutely right.
I think you're very annoying when you do that.
Yeah.
That's an attack.
Sorry, but listen to your own wording that you're saying, and I think this is important for everybody seeing this, listening. I think ... And that's, first of all, thinking, and it's an opinion that is being projected on the other. But below that thinking and that opinion, there is a feeling that you feel when I act in a certain way, right?
If we would stick with that sentence, I think you're very annoying when you keep coming at me. Let's put that sentence up. It's like think. It already connects to thinking and not to feeling.
Disconnection in a way.
Yeah, because in a relationship, feeling is the connection. Then it's annoying. You are annoying to me. How can you come back from that? If I am your partner, you find me annoying and I want nothing more than you to love me or to have a great relationship with me where there's respect. In being annoyed with someone, respect is gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it might be, okay, and then the next part, when you keep coming at me like that, well, I don't experience that I'm coming at you. I'm trying to connect to you. So somebody made a conclusion and throwing it in that way at you, you can only defend yourself. And when you defend yourself, there's no connection.
Yeah. And I love that we're on this podcast together because we have that perspective of men and women. But like when you say that, it's like you're coming at me. Like when we say that, it's like we feel that we're not good enough. We want to go into retraction. And we want to escape, in a way, the situation. And I'm talking from the male perspective and the men that I'm working with, we try to manipulate the shit out of things to, let's say, get back to that homeostasis. Like, okay, I will do this. What do you need?
I want it to go away.
Yes, that's when a man steps into his little boy, he's like, I want to get rid of this. What is the fastest way to get rid of this situation? Do I need to lie? Do I need to manipulate? Do I need to let go of a little bit of the information? Do I dominate you? How can I fix it? Is literally the how can I is the main question men are asking themselves in this situation.
And a true conflict with the opportunity of growth is not to be fixed.
Exactly.
It's to be
exposed, confronted.
It's to be placed in experiences beside each other. If you just said like the other thing that guys do, because I came with that judgment or that can I be honest with you? You really annoy me when you keep coming at me like that. Okay, let's keep going back to that. This is the more dominant way, the dominant way of trying to shut up the other because you're guilting them.
And you're trying to win.
You're guilting them into like feeling, oh, I don't want to be annoying. And you're trying to shut them up. Another way, which is a softer way, is what you're saying is like, oh, how can I fix this? Okay, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to fix this?
Yeah.
Now you're putting the responsibility, you're not taking responsibility and trying to understand how you got into this situation from your side. Now you're putting all the responsibility in the one who has a problem with the situation or speaks out. Say, okay, now you tell me, I don't know, you tell me how to fix it.
Exactly. Or I was also really good at that, is trying to get you refocused on something different.
Yeah.
That was also a nice manipulation technique. And it was unconscious, so it was not consciously, but like trying to put the focus on something nicer so that her state would simmer back to that homeostasis. And I thought it worked. But
so there's one place where conflict or, where that does not belong. There's one place where conflict does not belong, and it's under the carpet.
Exactly. Absolutely. And many of us are learning this in their own family systems to put it under the carpet or saying we don't do conflict or etc. And I truly believe, and that's a belief that we share together, is that like when you are approaching conflict as we're sharing here today, it's the best thing in a way that can happen in any relationship. Doesn't by the mean, and I think this is also important because you also, let's say, go through those processes yourself with family and et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't
painful.
always mean that there is a permanent or temporary disconnect with the other person. That is a possibility.
It also, it can mean sometimes that it takes a really long while, but what you're doing when you acknowledge we do not see eye to eye, we have different experiences and they conflict with each other.
Exactly.
Is that you're starting to be honest, and there is no true connection possible if there's no honesty, because if we're not honest, we can't be vulnerable with each other. We're going to play roles.
Exactly.
And in those roles, we disconnect. I want to share, if that's okay with you, I won't go into details, but something you naturally did in our relationship within a conflict with us, that was the most, and it makes me cry every time I talk about it, was one of the most healing things I've experienced in my life. And I think a lot of humans can learn from that. I've learned from it because I haven't felt it like that in my life. And we were in a huge crisis together, like a crisis big enough to end the relationship. And it was like mostly inflicted by you, and you knew that.
Absolutely.
And you became honest to me. But what you did with that was just open up and not try to fix it. You opened it up, and you knew when you did that, this could be the end of us.
Absolutely.
And when you shared that with me, I knew, okay, if there's anything within me that wants to get out of this relationship, this is the moment.
Yeah.
And I felt, no, I want to continue with you. But we knew that the wounds that were in the relationship were so big, and that we said to each other, we don't know how long this is going to take. And Daniel said to me, this might take for the rest of our lives to heal. And he said, I'm willing to stand by you.
And by us.
And by us. And it's okay. We don't need an end date. And with that, for each other, we opened. So you could see like he was the inflictor and I was the victim. But I realized that when you inflict such harm in a relationship that you do not want to lose, that you value, there's a lot of pain in the one who inflicts it as well. So we could ping pong, and we can still do that in the healing process.
Absolutely.
To kind of feel the pain the other in their role was going through. Even like in my victim role, to call it that, I could also feel how victimized he was by the situation.
Yeah.
Not to bypass his responsibility, but what you did, and this is something you see very rarely because there was a lot of guilt and shame on your side.
Yeah.
But you, every time the pain boiled up in me, I could just see yourself disarm yourself, open your heart, and you allowed yourself to feel my pain in your heart without trying to fix it, but just receiving it. And that is where the transformation could happen. Not in cognitively saying, okay, now you should be done with it. We've talked about this. Now you should, man up. No, oh gosh, this is still sometimes it comes up.
Oh yeah.
It's like 3 years later and it still can hurt. And sometimes you feel your triggers going like trigger, I'm going to fight. And then you're going like,
yeah,
no, of course this hurts still.
And I think even if I go back to those times, remembering, I also, let's say, being in a way the one stating that and sharing that with you, that there was no end date. But and I love that you say like, okay, you have the victim and, and the one that it's caused the pain. And at the same time, I remember there were moments that I needed to be exposing myself again with like, hey, now it becomes too much.
Yes.
It's not like we need to stop this conflict. We don't need to stop
needed
this
a
argument,
break.
but I need to have a little bit of decompression from it, because otherwise I can't be what I want to be in our relationship and in our union. Yeah.
And this is again where respect comes in, especially if when you feel something dramatic happens or drama has been swept under the carpet and it's been too much and you want to go out. You feel like it's time to leave the relationship. I'm not going to argue on that right now. But when you feel I want to, this is my person, and I don't know where we're coming out, but I am willing to go through the pain with you.
Exactly.
Because I know that if we go through it, we'll come out as better people on the other side.
Absolutely.
But we cannot do that when we hold grudges.
No, and I said it several times in that time, is that I think for the both of us, it would be an easier way to just separate from each other. That would be the easy...
On the surface level.
Yeah, on the surface level. And at the same time, that's also, in a way, the pattern of leaving the room that we spoke about earlier in this podcast. Because then you don't need only to have engage in a conflict with each other, but then it's also that you're, let's say, running away from a conflict within yourself.
Exactly.
And I think that's the most important thing.
And it will return.
And it will return.
You can run away, but it is not going away.
No. And that's what I think both see a lot and sometimes also feel a lot, is like we try to control the outside world because then we don't need to expose those painful parts, experiences within ourselves, pieces. Like when I came across the term shadow work years ago, I was like, yeah, that's some hippie bullshit.
I was judgmental of the term as well.
But I also, with that, I built another relationship. For me, if I would, let's say, define it nowadays, let's say the shadow work or the shadow parts are the things that are literally hiding in the shadows, our desires, our longings, our lies. In a way, it's everything.
Our untransformed pain that wants to get gratification.
And also truth. There is truth in hiding in the shadow that if we would let that come into the light, then that would change the emotional status quo of a family, of a relationship, of the relationship with yourself, because it is entering your own shadows is transformative in itself. And I will stop talking about this part now because I think it's a beautiful podcast in itself, but it is fueling the things of conflict that we spoke about.
And this is the beauty. You guys know I work with energy, activating life force energy, Kundalini activations. In these sessions, we stop the talking and we go into this state of surrender, which is actually a relaxation of the nervous system to allow all that is part of us to start to communicate. And this is why a lot of people get very ecstatic experience as well as go deep into the hidden bits and pieces of pain, as well as in our coaching each. And your work with men, you have a very almost, I sometimes say you're like a surgeon when you're in your flow, where you can just hear all the layers of, let's call it bullshit, but it's really protective mechanisms, and go, no, this is not true. This is not true. This is not, tell me the truth. What is true to you? When are you vulnerable?
Yeah.
And that is where the transformation can happen. So if we'd go back to that sentence, like...
Sorry, before you go back, because we spoke about this concept of truth, I think it's important to add two things to that. Truth is on one side awareness and consciousness, because being not truthful, or when we use the word lying in our vocabulary, we don't mean that negatively, like you're consciously lying. Most of the time, we are so skilled in leaving certain parts of information, wording, even beliefs internally away in the shadow that we spoke about, that we are all lying constantly all the time. And another wording for that is we're all, most of the time, are really unconscious with many of our desires, many of our opinions, many of the things in a way that are important to us, but because we just learn to suppress it all. And
hide it from ourselves.
Hide it from ourselves. And then when you say being the surgeon, I'm like, okay, I listen to the patterns. I see their bodies. And I can just see that they are lying to themselves and they don't even know it.
It has to do with also your judgments about yourself and your I will give another little example in our relationship, and this is very innocent in a way. In our relationship, there is this pattern where we both don't like to do the action of paying. Doesn't matter if it's my money, his money, our money. We both don't like to have the interaction of doing it. But Daniel is a bit more steady and like, no, you do it. So he would give me his purse, or I would take mine or whatever. And I would say, like, please, will you do it? Please, will you do it? No, I really don't like it. And he's just more steady in that than I'm more compliant.
I'm just stubborn in some way.
You're very stubborn. But it kept rubbing me the wrong way. And for me, feeling that rubbing it the wrong way, it would trigger me. But I don't want to be one of those women who wants to be treated like a princess. I want to be cool. I don't want to be nagging.
So you're lying to yourself unconsciously.
Well, I was telling myself who I did not want to be, exactly, while I had a desire for just feeling taken care of.
There's a lie.
Until the point where we were, I think it was in Greece, in a restaurant. And suddenly I realized I can just voice this shameful feeling I have. And I could voice to you
your deepest desire.
For me, it felt shameful. For you, it just made a lot of sense, where I said, listen, it doesn't matter to me whose money it is. I just don't always want to be the one who has to think about paying when we go out for dinner. I just want to feel taken care of, that you kind of do this for me. And I want to feel treated and carefree. I want to be carefree, taken care of. And I need you to do that for me every now and then. And now it was no longer about who's paying.
Exactly.
Now it was about, I have a desire for you to just make me feel spoiled.
No, and I think that's also a beautiful one to move a little bit more to the end of this conversation for now. Because we started with the land of the lost and going into arguments. And the arguments would you need to pay or something like that. And then we start to bigger with each other. And I was stubborn until you choose, instead of being in the land of the lost, moving into the land of connection, because you connected, became truthful to your desires.
What I felt vulnerably.
Expose yourself and had the courage to share your desires. And then it clicked with me. I'm like, so it's not about the action of paying, that's the land of the lost, like for us to connect and for Ing to connect with herself, but also for me, it's also connected with me. Her desire is that she wanted to be taken care of. And of course, I love her. So of course I would like to go into that action of paying.
This gave us both like a whole new world of getting to know each other, because what I was actually doing in that moment, I didn't realize it then like that, is I was giving him a very valuable bit of information about how I feel loved and treated well. And so now for him, the paying, even not just saying I will pay, but just doing it, for him was not about that, but it was about, I'm going to make Ing feel really treated. And we could have the conversation about all of the ideas around it, and me in my feminine, not wanting to be nagging, not wanting to be that, and opening up that whole new can of worms, which could be butterflies, about, what more is there to discover?
And it also allowed me to, in a way, unlock certain parts of my masculinity and being a man, because
very sexy. It's very sexy.
If it's just about the action of paying, like you get stubborn, Daniel, but because in a way we both went into finding the truth, the inner truth, the exposure, the meaning to it. And that's in a way the whole essence of this conversation.
Yes.
If you want to transform your relationship and you want to leave the land of the lost, and you start to reframe conflict as an opportunity to connect and to grow,
get to know each other better,
that means that you need to go into this process that we share today in this podcast around conflict.
To round it up, I'm going to return to that.
Round it up. I love it.
To go back to that sentence, like, I think you're very annoying when you keep coming at me like that. When somebody says that to you or something like it, and you go into defense, there are many different variations. The one who's receiving tends to go into defense or into shutdown. But what if you come with curiosity? Because the vulnerable thing to do for me, if I would get that sentence, is like going, you find me annoying? I don't want to be annoying. And you feel I'm coming at you? I'm not coming at you. I want to connect to you.
Absolutely.
So we want to turn around and understand what are they saying that they're not saying that can bring us into connection.
Yeah, and then you come back to the truth. What are you not saying to yourself? Where are you not taking responsibility? But that's a whole process in itself, and it's not even wrappable in one podcast.
It's not a quick fix.
It's like 11 years of work that we're sharing here, but there is a beautiful process, and it's a skill that you can develop that will transform all of those things. So
it starts within yours, because all we are talking about in partner relationships, this also happens within yourself.
Absolutely.
You are arguing this way with yourself before you even say something.
So thank you so much for watching this. We hope it's helpful, and we're sharing here, like, from our deepest parts, how we live, what we do, how we interact with each other, but also the people that come here and work with us. And for us, it would be really valuable also to just, if you share, if you reply, interact, and let's see this as an organically start of a huge transformation within relationships. Yeah, in conversation in relationship itself, because it can be different and it can change today.
If you've listened all the way to here, this is our little assignment. Share with your partner a couple of things you've learned about yourself while listening to this, not about them, about yourself, and let us know what that sharing brought into your relationship.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.